Steve, Scott, happy Monday. What's happening?
Hello, sir. Happy Monday.
Yeah, so thanks everybody for popping in. Today is October 9th, 2017. Welcome to another edition of the Office Hours webinar with myself and Steve Gomez. So before we get into the fun stuff, just want to take a moment to let everybody know that the information that we share in these webinars is strictly for educational purposes only. So if you do need somebody to give you investment advice, tell you what to buy, sell, all that good stuff, please seek out a registered, licensed individual for that. Could be an RIA, could be a broker. In any case, if you need investment advice, please seek out the proper person to dispense such knowledge, because what we do here is share this information for educational purposes. I think that would make the lawyers happy.
Me too.
Yeah. So for the new people and for the people who attend on a regular basis, thanks for being a little patient right here. I just want to give a quick rundown for those of you who might be tuning in for the very first time. Not only do we have the award-winning scanning software, which is TI Pro with artificial intelligence, but we've also created quite the robust community around that technology. Kind of all starts off with the top there, Barry's Trading Room, which he opens about 30 minutes before the market every day. And he's in there all day, every day, using the technology, talking about his trading techniques and sharing things with you live and in real time. Typically anywhere between 400 to 600 people in there on any given day. And one of the better things about the room, other than Barry, of course, being the best thing, is that it's free. You don't even have to be a Trade Ideas subscriber to get in there and see what's going on. So it's a great educational resource. Very good complement to the rest of the week. Monday through Thursday, we have the 1-hour webinars, which you can see here. Myself and Steve on Monday. Steve takes the helm for tomorrow and Trade of the Week, and Andy rides shotgun. We mix it up a little bit and bring Dan Merkin, the CEO, and Brad Williams, the Chief Technical Officer, in here. Let them do their thing, change it up a little bit. Of course, Andy takes the helm back on Thursday. I ride shotgun, and then Friday we do it a little bit differently. It's myself, Steve, and Andy all in one room for a 3-hour little marathon on Fridays from 11 to 2 p.m. Eastern. So especially if you're a new user, maybe you're having to wait a little bit, a few days, maybe a week or so to get your training session, this is a great way to supplement your knowledge base in the meantime while you wait. Once again, just always feel compelled to let people see how well Holly the AI is being received. And you can see this is when we launched her in the very beginning of 2016, and since that point in time we've had quite the influx of users. And of course, last but not least here, the Trade Ideas Brokerage Plus for IB, which is still in beta, which it's past the point of no return. It's past the 50% mark as far as getting ready to be released. Just a couple more rounds of testing. This thing's going to be coming out of beta. Why is it important to know when it leaves beta and goes into production? Well, simply because right now, if you are a premium subscriber, it's free. And you will be grandfathered in, because once it goes into production, there will be an additional charge. They have not really nailed it down yet, but if I had to approximate, probably going to be somewhere in the range of a one-time fee, probably right about $1,000. So just keep in mind, if you're a premium subscriber before this goes live on the production version, it's free and you're grandfathered in. Okay, on to the good stuff. So, of course, I'm going to pass the baton over to Steve in just a second, let him do his market review here, and then we're going to get on into what we always do, because it's relevant in any market condition, which are the compare counts and Holly. And I've got something new for you guys. We're going a little bit deeper with these compare count windows. Got some very interesting windows to share with you, and explain to you how I use that information as the market unfolded today. So Steve, if you're ready,
cool. Yeah,
I can kick the hacky sack over to you real quick here as soon as I find the right panel.
Let me get my Care Bear Pinterest board off the screen here.
Right. And you should have the helm, sir.
Okay, all right. So, hello everybody. couple of observations today for sure. Let me organize my space here. Bring this forward. SPY spiders after a big run last week. Looks like we're in for some sideways consolidation action here. But the real story is the relative volume. For most of the day, the spiders were around 0.5 relative volume. So for those who don't realize it, today being a quasi-holiday for some, the bond market was closed, and so we didn't have a complete data set for the institutions to kind of manage their decision-making process today. So all we had were equities. And judging by the spiders, Qs, and diamonds midday, I mean, these things, these ETFs that replicate the indexes, they were all pretty much flying their flag at half mast today. Very low volume, very, very low volume across the board. And the spiders, the Qs finished with 0.54 relative volume. I'm looking right here, by the way, guys, on my upper right-hand quadrant. And IWM, which has been the darling, 0.68. So that actually did the best of the three. And IWM has been going sideways 5 days now. Haven't given too much in price action back. So, that in itself is a strong indicator of consolidation. Price can consolidate either in time, like we're doing here over time, or it can consolidate in price and pull back in actual price. And we haven't really seen that, even though there is, in fact, a juicy gap down here to fill for the most part in the IWM. So the takeaway today is, kind of a day of rest. A little bit of selling came in towards the end of the day, and I'll even go a step further. On the VIX, the fear index today, you can see here on my 15-minute chart. What was this all about? Somebody was buying protection here in the final hour and a half of the day. For whatever reason, I don't know. I can speculate. Our friend Kim Jong-un, Baby Huey, the October 10th is a big day in North Korea. That's their Independence Day when the Kim family took over and the Communist Nationalists decided that that was their charter. So people have said in the past that North Korea likes to make waves and shoot rockets and do crazy things on days that are significant to them. I don't know if that's the case, but just something to be aware of. The markets are now closed, but I did find it interesting that we had some protection buying here going into the last 2 hours of the day. A little bit of fall off in the IWM pretty much from the open all day long, but not too much to write home about. So let's see what tomorrow brings, really, with the bond market turned back on and all the data points able to be utilized for the decision making of the institutions. The only sector that I saw today besides gold miners that were doing well, SMHs, the semis, kind of held their own today. Not bad. I mean, when you consider the Qs, we're down for the day. And again, let's take a look around the horn. Facebook up and back down. Amazon kind of flat on the day. Nothing really going on there. Facebook up and back down. Netflix, after a big run, has given a little bit back. And Google started off the day okay, and then kind of a nice topping tail wick. So the big FANG stocks certainly didn't help out the Qs today. But as I said, the SMHs were curiously strong. The semiconductor stocks were curiously strong today. So that's my takeaway. Some fear buying, some insurance purchasing using the VIX, ETF, or whatever instruments they want to use, the futures. But that was of note. The semiconductor strength at the end of the day, or for the most part, for most of the day, was of note. And then the low volume that we have in the spiders, Qs, and diamonds today. That volume should probably pick back up tomorrow. But for the bulls, the good news is we're not pulling back in price. We're not consolidating in price. We are consolidating in time and just moving sideways. So bulls typically for continuation moves love to see consolidation in sideways action, consolidation over time versus consolidation over price. So if that stays the course and we still have some sideways days here in the big ETFs, that just keeps the path of least resistance moving higher as still the prevailing wisdom. Footprints in the sand, once again, are all we care about. We don't care about Gartman, Kramer, or any CEOs that want to come on and lie, which, by the way, I think I tweeted earlier, Random Walk, again, the guy's name escapes me, but he did a great job at our Trade Ideas Summit 2017. And in his presentation, if you watch the 45-minute video, just great examples of what his big data shows versus what the people that come on to talk about that same stock show that are maybe talking up their book, or they're already long and they want to start trying to exit. He gives some great examples of the misdirection that is out there, you guys, with FinTech and FinMedia, CNBC being one of the most egregious purveyors of that stuff, bringing on people to talk their books. So circle back, price action is all we care about. We don't care about lying human beings wearing ties on CNBC. They have ulterior motives. And so if you get a chance to watch the Random Walk guy give his demonstration on the big data and the stuff that they look at, just wonderful moments of catching CNBC and their guests in
Steve,
misdirection.
But it was that great innovation in the handbags, man. That was important stuff, right?
Yeah.
Innovation.
The handbag
innovation in the handbag space. Well, what is this innovation? Well, you see here, Bob, now you can have a
consulted a
monogram.
third-party PR firm to come out and give us the story on why our earnings suck so bad.
Now you can have a monogram tag, see?
Yeah. So I can't say it enough. Can't say it enough. Please go back. I'm going to tweet it again while we're talking here, while Jamie starts talking, at Today Trader on Twitter, and you guys can bookmark that that speech. But I brought that up again just to remind you, what are we looking at to make our decisions? Footprints in the sand and the volumes. We're not concerned with what people are telling us to do or not do on CNBC. That's all misdirection. And this was a great presentation and a great video. So with that said, that's all I got over here. I'll turn it back over to you, and I will go ahead and retweet that that edited version of the man that I was speaking about. Yep. At Today Trader is my handle. All right,
I also
Jamie,
highly recommend that. It's a great piece.
Back to you.
Very eye-opening. Okay, everybody, welcome back to my desktop. Here we go. So yeah, Steve, I agree with all of your observations there, and yeah, the FANG stocks probably got a little bit overdone, and we got the overweighting, and when it comes to the semis, hey, chips still have to be produced for all of these electronic gadgets that we're addicted to. So that semiconductor fabrication sector still making the donuts. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Holly. Holly had kind of an interesting day, to say the least. So let me minimize this if I don't step on something here. All right, so Holly, as far as a big day, not a big trade day, not a big trade count day, only 8 trades today. And of course, not the biggest collection of strategies that we've seen her bring to the party, but nothing to sneeze at either. So she came to the party with 8 strategies. All of those were longs, of course, except for bond shorty, which did not fire, along with buyers stepping in and on support. So we did have a trade count of 8 trades, and of course, today they were all long. But before we get into what Holly did, I want to run you through the process that I always like to do about 20 minutes into the open. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my Twitter feed right over here, and we'll scroll down so you can see exactly what I'm referencing here. We'll get back here to 20 minutes into the open, and here we go. Okay, so probably some of you have these windows on your desktop. Don't worry if you don't have these windows. I'm going to be dropping the links for all these guys into the chat area before we're done here. But here's what they look like, and predominantly focusing on the big caps, but of course, interesting, in the $2 to $4 billion capitalization rate. We had a little bit different metrics. Didn't really pay too much heed to that, because when I'm trying to gear my expectations on how the day might unfold, if we were the sailing ship, this would be me clicking the finger, sticking it up into the air, probably using a little bit more advanced device than a finger, but trying to figure out where the wind is. Which way is it blowing? Is it blowing north? Is it blowing south? And if it is blowing, once we figure out what direction, how intensely is it blowing? That way we have expectations on what the day might hold in store for us. So after the first 20 today, in the bigger cap stocks, things over 4 billion and 5.4 billion, we had some pretty interesting readings here. Once again, the bias isn't really, well, it's always significant. It becomes more significant once we encroach the 55% level one way or the other. And of course, we had 57 and 58% respectively today. Now, the thing to point out here is that we also had kind of a correlation with the overall market itself kind of selling off in that period, which always makes it, it adds a layer of complexity, all right? So we're seeing the selling, we're like, well, is it done yet? Okay, and typically, if we see these levels in the first 15 to 20 minutes, it typically means something. Of course, it probably would have been a little bit different of a story if we got up to 60, went over, but that was not the case today. So we did have a very decided downward bias in the accelerated selling in the first 15 to 20 minutes. So considering the fact that we're still in a very big bull market, it's just that we're getting up here to the top, and here we are after the top out, and now it looks like we're trying to find our feet and potentially develop into a new range here. Steve was illustrating consolidating by time as opposed to price. To use another one of Steve's lines, hey, this was a big battle. There was a lot of energy expended to get up here, and now you have to give the troops a hot meal, a couple nights rest, then maybe they can go higher, or maybe we break down. But to see this little pattern establishing here is a good thing. It means we're not just immediately snapping back. And the statistical model known as Holly, when this is going on, the further it lasts, the harder it is to make sense of what may be in the future. Now, since we're up here starting to establish a little base here, I would tend to think that, assuming we don't start doing crazy stuff here, the statistical model will pick back up to the upside. But let's take a look at what happened today. So let's focus first on the equity curve, whether it's risk off or risk on. Risk off looks a little more jagged, risk on a little smoother, but basically the same pattern, whether we're obeying all the rules, stop losses, profit targets, all that good stuff, or we're just buying and holding. So just like a lot of days, what did we see here? We saw a little gyration in the beginning, a little drawdown, which is natural, and then of course shortly into the after Holly started putting her trades on, which by the way, the first one did not occur until about 35 minutes into the market, and then we had a nice little flurry of longs here. And of course, they started working initially, but focusing back on my expectations, when I see readings like this on the big caps, it tells me pretty much this. Just as with any market, of course, we were in a downdraft for a lot of the day, sideways here, and then finished off with one more little swoon to the downside. But what are those compare count readings? How did I interpret them this morning? Well, there will be some upside opportunity, just as there always is, even in a downdraft market. But you better take that money. You better take those cookies when the plate's there, because next time it comes back around in a market like this, with those type of opening metrics, there's a very good chance there's going to be just crumbs left, right? Things will get that pop, just not enough momentum overall, and they're going to come back. So those were my expectations. So I immediately told myself, let's watch Holly. I think she might just be all over the place today. And of course, she was up, and then she was down. Sometimes on these days we'll have ebb and flow at the zero line, but simply not today. So she got in the money, presented us with almost $1.50 in risk on, not quite $1 in risk off, but the money was there if you were following her. It didn't last, right? So these compare count windows for the big caps can be very good leading indicators to give us an idea of how the overall market might unfurl. And of course, once we see Holly struggling, that only reemphasizes the larger compare count bias to the downside that we saw. All right. So not only can you use these windows to temper your own trading, if you're a long side trader, you got to be nimble. You got to be quick. You got to take that money. Now, of course, just as with all markets, there are some stocks that continue to go to the upside. A couple of examples were of those today were team and HTHT. And I want to kind of save these for the end because what I'm about to show you guys next has a little bit more bearing, all right? And it's also something that we don't touch base on very often, and that's short selling. So what I did over the weekend is, I've been watching these compare accounts now for many, many moons and tweeting out, the results after the open in that 15 to 20 minute period. But of course, I've got a lot of things on my plate. I procrastinate just like every other human/trader out there. But I revived an old layout that I haven't looked at in a very long time. And what we're doing here is we're taking the concept of these compare count windows and we're simply going to drill down deeper, all right? Well, if we're getting good information on the ebbs and flows of the overall market and how to temper our expectations based on just watching the simple accelerated high-low volume on the big caps, well, what if we go ahead and take that one step further and look at each sector, all right? So what I did is I came up with 12 sectors that I just picked from the pre-configured lists that Trade Ideas has, all right? So I'll show you guys in just a minute here when we get to that point, and I'm also going to be dropping this layout into the chat, so don't fret. All these windows will be available for you at the end here. So let's revisit what exactly is in these compare count windows before we move on to the new stuff. Bear with me one second here. Okay, so I think that's the wrong one. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so here are the the overall ones that have that I've been watching for quite some time. I'm just going to take a look, show you guys what the configuration looks like. So once again, the new high is the only alert, and we're looking at stocks that are doing accelerated 1 minute volume in the open because the institutions leave footprints. They can't get all those big orders done, whether they're buys or sells, but they get a large portion of them done. That volume is going to be higher than normal. So in essence, they're leaving footprints. And that's where the value of these metrics come from. So what I did is I took the same configuration and created individual sector compare count windows. So for example, we come into this guy, this is real estate and rental leasing. So if we pop into configure, let's take a peek here. Once again, it's the same accelerated volume configuration with the 300% on the 1 minute. We're just using this little guy to keep the ETFs and iShares out. And then we go to symbol list.
And there's your key.
Only the following list: real estate and rental and leasing. Where did I get this list? How did I get it to show up? All we do is we click here, scroll to the bottom, we click on sectors. Now at the bottom here, you'll see all the main sectors. So to get a sector to show up, right now, professional, scientific, and technical services is not there, but as soon as I click on it, boom, it shows up. Now, of course, I'm just doing some of the broader sectors here, but keep in mind, finance, real estate, and insurance. Well, let's open the folder. Now we see all the subsectors: credit, securities, insurance, funds, right? So just keep in mind, you can go sectors, subsectors, and then subsectors, right? Now, I'm just using the bigger ones for that umbrella effect. So what I did in the layout that I'll share with you guys, it's got 12 of the main sectors up there, all configured. So when you do get these windows, I urge everybody to continue to point them to new sectors because you can't really have too many of these things, in my opinion. Obviously, we're limited by screen space. So now you know what things look like under the hood, and once again, keeping in mind the simplistic nature of these windows is a beautiful thing as well. So let's take a peek. And what I did is I designed this layout to just open up on top of what you already have. So when you do that, then you can just position everything accordingly and then resave your layout. So as soon as my cloud loads up here, We're going to open up this guy. I call it Sector Watcher version 2. We load it up, and then voila. You're going to have 12 windows all pointed to the respective sectors with the accelerated buying and selling, and then you can duplicate and point these windows to different things and just experiment around with them in general, because I'm still barely scratching the surface. I'm sure there are lots of new ways to use these windows, but that will come with time.
Question. So is that a cloud link that you have that's kind of a template there for all 12 CC windows that can easily be go in and configured one by one?
That is correct, because what I did when I saved these, now let me just show you here.
As a layout.
Yeah, I saved it as a layout. So I click this button, but then I uncheck this button so it doesn't clear your current layout. So these windows will literally just open up on top, then you can move them around to your other monitors. And then if you're pushed for screen space, you can even have these guys just in the background and watch them, and then click on all your other windows and cover them up, right? So there's lots of different ways to work it if you're limited with your screen space.
But if somebody took that cloud link, it's up to the user to define which window defines which sector.
Right, all these are pre-configured, right?
Okay.
So oil and gas is currently looking only at oil and gas. You don't have to make any adjustments to these windows.
That's my question. Okay, thank you. Good to know. All right, cool.
Yeah, you don't have, these are all dialed in and ready to watch. But let's say you see a sector in the list that's not currently represented here, right? Let's say, okay, I want to make a new one that's not represented. All we'd have to do is right click, we duplicate it, right? That's the easiest thing. And then all you have to do is come in here, find the new sector, and point to the new sector, right? Rename the window, and then boom, you've got that for a completely different sector. Now just keep in mind, you have to do it for the red and the green side, and change the titles. That way you don't get confused. All right. Okay, so hopefully everybody has a pretty good grasp of what's going on here. So just like the other compare accounts looking at the big cap stocks, we give these a peek 15 to 20 minutes in. And you know, hey, 15 to 20 minutes, really what I found is that there's really not that big of a difference. In my, you know, the earlier you get this information, the better. So let's just use 15 minutes, right? So what did this thing look like 15 minutes in, right? Well, what I did here is there were a lot of interesting things. Some things had greater than 55% bias to the upside. But what stuck out like a sore thumb to me today was this guy right here. Healthcare. And you can see, went ahead and tweeted that one out. I'm like, wowza. You're telling me healthcare after 15 minutes of trading, 20 minutes of trading is showing 82% selling? And not just 82% selling, with those enhanced volume metrics. So I'm like, okay, all right, well, unless I've done something wrong here, which was always, you know, that's always a thought when we see something crazy. We're like, well, I must have made a configuration error. Well, no, that wasn't the case. This was legit. So what did I do next? Well, okay, well, healthcare, well, I could probably rattle off a couple of stocks in that industry, but I need information and I need it fast, right? So what I did is I have one of my favorite top list windows, my volume radar, which is just looking at a ton of stocks, and I'm keying off of these volume metrics here. But what I did is I went in there and I did here. Trade anyway. So I just threw some generic volume metrics in there. 300,000 a day. Already got to crank out 100,000 today. Got my earnings filters in there. Bing, bam, boom. All right. Now, this is the list that was displayed to me 20 minutes into the open. So let me just clip these guys out of the way here, and we'll get down to the fun stuff, which is looking at the timeliness of the little bird going, hey, guess what? There's 82% selling with high volume going on in the healthcare sector right now. Okay, well, these are the main players, right? Nice little list, not too long, not too short. Got all the big players right here. Now keep in mind, this is what the list looked like 20 minutes into the open. If we look back 5 more minutes, 15 minutes, probably wouldn't see any that big of a difference. All right, so 15 to 20 minutes in, we get this information. Is there any opportunity? And of course, this is going to be applying to the short side, ladies and gents, which we don't cover here very often, but hey, it's the same old song and dance, except we're selling first and buying back cheaper, hopefully later, right? So let's just take a little look here. Okay, well, if we were told about CYH, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes here, okay. Don't know many people that like to just chase things like that, but it was more interesting what happened. Stocks go down, instead of taking their 25% pullback from the top, this guy's taking his little 25% pullback off the bottom. Would have made for a really nice little entry right here after we had this little consolidation area right here. You know, establishing a little upside threshold if we were wrong. But man, what a pretty signal. And the funny thing is, this is almost the ugliest chart that you're about to see. All right. CYH, once again, very tradable stock. You know, kicking the market cap, not quite $1 billion. But let's proceed. All right. That's 20 minutes for CYH. Ah, well, this one looks a little bit different, doesn't it? Right? Big difference in this chart, right? We've already put in our tops. We're getting the count right here. Hey, psst, psst. Not only is there big selling, I mean, there's mammoth readings in this industry. So top's already been put in. What I like about this little guy right here, you know, we're starting to break out of this little pathetic range that had already been put in the first 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes or so. So once again, we're not flying blind here, ladies and gentlemen. We've got some very good information from the compare count. Pick the hot sector. Where's the action? All right. Keep in mind what Steve was getting at earlier. Volume across all the indices, pretty pathetic. But guess what? You know, a lot of action, a lot of downside action here. So what a beautiful entry we could have made up here. Never really went against us. Paying free trade on DXCM, TROV. Okay, once again, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes in, same song and dance. Still plenty of downside opportunity in TROV today.
Hey, Jamie, that's a good question. I hate to interrupt you on a roll there, but all the compare count windows you showed, Frank brings up a good question there.
Sure.
When you bring up the compare count windows, they start over with new, fresh data. Is there a way to recapture data from the start of the day? In other words, what's the best way to get the most amount of data for the whole day without leaving and coming back and having to start those windows fresh over again?
Well, unless I'm misunderstanding the question, I think the simplest way to handle that issue would be as follows. Now, of course, this isn't the right window, but I'll just use this as an example. Let's pretend this was the big cap one, right? Okay. And after 15 minutes, I see the reading. Well, if I duplicate it, the original one will keep its original count. The only time these start over is if you duplicate it. This one will keep his original count. This guy will start over from the time that he was duplicated, right? So you can always keep one keeping a count from the open and just duplicate one out and see, you know, I've toyed around with that to go, okay, well, I had big momentum in the first 15 minutes. Now I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to see on the fresh one, is the momentum accelerating or is it going the other way, right? And that's a little bit more of an advanced technique. I mean, sure. I'm throwing a lot of information at people and that have never seen these windows before, so I haven't really gotten into using it in that capacity because it's probably what we might call adult swim only. But that is the idea. You can always keep one that keeps going. As long as you don't deactivate your software and shut that one down, it keeps its count from the open, and then you can get other information.
But let me just throw a wrinkle on that. Let's say that if you leave and you go to a channel bar and you come back, those windows are going to refresh. So with that said, as much as I hate the
pinning, I know what you're talking about.
Pinning, pinning a window probably makes the most sense for the compare count windows over any other window that I can think of. And having that window pinned means that if you leave your default layout to go down and check out a channel bar, and then come back to your default layout, all of your compare count windows are going to reset. So Frank, a workaround for that, I don't know what your layout looks like, but a workaround for that might be to pin those windows. And just understand that every time you start going back and forth between layouts and other stuff, some of your pinned windows might start to replicate and duplicate duplicate. Before you know it, you might have 6 copies underneath that window.
Yeah.
So if you're going to use the pinned feature, that's one of the reasons I don't like it, because it can easily duplicate. But in this particular case, regarding your question of how can I keep that data fresh in there, pinning the windows is probably going to be the best order for the compare count windows.
Yep, just don't forget that you're pinning them. Otherwise, you know, you might want to get in a habit of taking a screenshot. If you're really adamant about getting some more deeper data from these windows, you can always take a screenshot every so many minutes as well. But other than that, just don't reset your software or pin the windows. But good questions, very relevant. Okay.
Yep, good. Thank you.
So getting back to the point here, guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you got this information and quickly went to this sector, you had plenty of time for some very, very nice downside opportunity, right? And there was something for everybody here. You like low dollar stocks? You like high dollar stocks? I mean, there was even one in here for 93 cents that, depending on if you could have got short, was a 10% move to the bottom of its daily range today on little TROV. But as you can see here, with the exception of CYH and one other one, it was just boom, pain-free to the short side on a lot of these guys, all right? Some of these would have been a little extended. You would have had a little sideways, you know, time to get out flat. But a lot of these just peeled over so nicely and presented with good opportunities that, you know, would I even care about what's going on here on a regular basis just from a chart perspective? Yeah, I like this pattern a lot because look at this little consolidation here. So especially if you've got what I like to call turbocharged information coming from the healthcare opening compare count going, hey, but guys, not only is there selling, it's off the hook, 80%, Katie bar the door, right? And you're getting that information right here. So let the trade come to you. You see something like this happening, how hard is it to go, okay, well, I see what's happening here. As soon as it breaks there, I'm all over it. I got low risk. I got this information coming from the compare count window that probably not many other people are aware of. So it's very powerful. So, you know, I'm sure tomorrow we're going to see the same thing, except it's going to be in a different sector. Is it going to be to the upside or is it going to be to the downside? Well, don't know, but we'll find out. And of course, today was the first way that I, you know, kind of took a look at this new layout. So there was probably lots of other good upside and downside opportunities other than this sector, but this one was the hottest.
You're creating some good questions with this content. Mike wants to know, where did you get the symbol list for the healthcare stocks and the volume radar?
Very good, very good. So once again, the compare count window is pointed to our internal list, right? So you can see here, only the following list, healthcare and social assistance. If the list is not there, all we do is hit this button, we come down here, and we find it, and as soon as we click on it, then it shows up over here. We can point the window to it. Now, once we learned that that was the hot sector, right, I did the same thing with this window right here. I left my bare bones filter settings, because this is how you immediately generate the watch list. Once you've identified the hot sector from the compare count window, then this is how you generate a quick watch list, is you have your basic filter settings to try to get the thin stuff out, and we point the top list to the exact same list. So we identify where it is, where's the action, then we plug in our favorite top list format, point it to there, and then we get the big players doing the volume. Boom, 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 and then it's just simple as going, okay, when it breaks here, I'm gonna hit it. What was I just looking at here? I mean, here's another one, this BKD. There were so many of these guys. I mean, out of this group right here, the ones that were red, so many pristine short opportunities to be had here. And the only, you know, the prime way that I found them was because I knew what was going on in that healthcare industry before, way before everybody else did, unless they're watching metrics which are similar to what we're reviewing right here. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, are we caught up on questions?
Yep. Yeah, we should be good.
Right, right. So just to recap here, we watch the compare count windows. After 15 minutes, we look over there. What are the crucial metrics? Well, predominantly, since you're going to be watching 12 of these things to get started, you want to find the biggest, baddest ones, right? Either, tomorrow, if we see some 60% greens to the upside, definitely pay attention to those sectors. Pay attention if you see 60% red one way or the other. But man, when I saw that 80%, I'm like, could be a mistake. But guess what? It wasn't. It wasn't. And the information was laid out so quickly and so precisely that, especially, here's what ties everything together, is that the big compare count windows told me to be leery of the upside today, because if I do decide to take some upside trades, of course, Holly was all upside, take the money while it's there because it won't last long. Perfect. Thank you, compare counts, for the big cap. Next best opportunity in the market today was getting these very low risk short entries in the sector that was being sold off like cats and dogs, that I don't think a whole lot of people really knew the magnitude of the selling that was about to commence. But we did, because that's the one that lit up today, and that's how you do it, right? Once again, it's a very simple methodology, but it makes a whole lot of sense here. Okay, now I see your question there, Catherine, excuse me. How do you close a layout before opening another one? Well, you can just X out all the windows to close the layout out, if that's what you want to do, and have nothing left but the toolbar. Or most of the time, Catherine, when we open a new layout, like for example, a channel is just really a layout. So if I click on short squeeze, it closes my other layout, right? Now, we can make the software with a cloud link that's a layout. We can tell it, don't clear the previous layout, just open these windows on top, which is the way I've designed these layouts that I'm going to share with you.
I did type to her, in private, you could consider saving each layout that you want to close as a different file name to the cloud. So you got layout A to the cloud, layout B to the cloud, layout C to the cloud. So you could close those, and Jamie will show you how to do that. But then the good news is you haven't lost them. They're saved to the cloud.
Right. The only way to close out a layout is to technically kill all the windows that make up the layout. So once I open, well, let me do this. Let me just open my default layout one more time, or today's webinar layout, which I call today. Okay, so boom, that guy comes back up. Now, if I were to open another cloud layout, it would erase what's here and throw up the new layout. But in the case of these guys, I've deselected the clear previous layout. So when I give you guys this layout for all the compare counts, it's just going to open up right on top. And then you can find out where you want to put these guys, and then, if it's another monitor, you can do that. But once you get things arranged, you would just save your layout, your default layout. And then boom, everything's going to come back up just how you left it. Okay, so Frank's question was, is there a way to look at a stock in the volume range that showed buying early?
I kind of answered that. Buying early, I thought that I had read buying pre-market. I thought that's what Frank was saying, buying pre-market. And what I had answered was maybe turn on the pre-market chart function so you can see trades and volume bars in the pre-market. Other than that, I don't really know how to identify volume that showed buying early. It kind of goes back to what the compare count windows are all about. Are they showing buying or are they showing selling on the institutional side?
Yeah, and then of course, adding the caveat, where's the heavy buying and selling, right? That's the whole key behind the compare count windows. It's just telling us where, okay, in other words, and I hate to always go back to institutional volume, but it's kind of what it is. I doubt it was the day trading community driving the healthcare sector down today. It was institutional selling, right? So path of least resistance, jump on that train, get drug along for a few clicks and you hop off, right? Versus fighting the killer algos that are running the stocks, not doing institutional volume. All right, so one more question here. Randy was asking, how do I delete a title file from the symbol list? So Randy, is it how do I?
Starting to type, yeah, it's going to have to be done from the symbol list to start with, not from the actual configuration of the alert. So now we're talking tools options, and then you're going to want to locate which symbol list you're talking about. You could rename the file, rename the title, you could add or subtract symbols within there, but I think the answer you're looking for is it's going to be through the tools options on the main toolbar. It's not going to be available to do that through the configuration of the alert window.
Correct, and let me go one step further. This is how you can edit a list, obviously, that you've created, right? Now, I don't know if anybody's thinking this already, but those pre-configured lists, you cannot, number one, you can't see what's in there, and you can't modify them because those are all maintained internally and updated internally. So you can't really even see, and let me illustrate what I'm talking about here. So the pre-configured list that I have these compare count windows pointed to, you know, you can see all of these guys, but you can't see what's inside of them, okay? Now, that might be something that we bring online in the future, but right now all these lists are being maintained and updated, just you don't have access to them. You can't see what's inside.
All right, Frank has a good follow-up question on the compare count windows. I was asking about using the data of the 20-minute compare count to select a capitalization, a cap range instead of a sector.
Oh yeah, you could totally do that. For example, the between 2 and 4 billion today was showing big buying going on, right? So the theme would be the same. Take your favorite top list, install your minimum filters, and then go in there and go, you know, minimum market cap 2 billion, maximum market cap 2 billion. So yeah, you can make custom top lists already. You could have those waiting in the wings and then just pull up the right one. As soon as you see the hot one, pull it up, right? You can make top lists for each compare count window as well. That's the beauty of it. Top list, alert windows. You know, you're only limited by your imagination, but we have to have the tell first. Where's the action the hottest? Okay, it's here. Now focus on that top list. Point that top list to these guys. Or just have a little compulsory set. Okay, when I find the hot sector, I've got my favorite alert window and my favorite top list that I'll duplicate and point to that sector. I mean, that's a hot list right there. All right, so one more little thing I wanted to point out about one of these trades that I found very interesting, because we just don't see, we're not seeing a lot of these. Okay, there we go. And it was one of these guys that is actually through his yearly low as well. Okay, not this guy, but he's setting up a nice camp down here. But one of these guys was just dipping in. I think it's DVA. Yeah, okay. So you see how DVA was weak, broke down a couple different times today. And this is a pattern that we just, well, no, actually, we're not there yet. We still got a little bit from way back here, November 2013. But I'm definitely, you know, DVA is looking real sick, and it's got a little bit further to go in this channel going back to that resistance. So, hey, maybe the party is over in the healthcare. We'll know tomorrow when we see our compare count windows. So just keep in mind, today it was these guys, plenty of time to act on the short trade. Who knows what we're going to see tomorrow, right? So before we drag on any more here, let me just take the time to get these windows posted into that chat area so that everybody has their shiny new toy take on.
Yeah, the GoToWebinar toolbar. It's a floating toolbar. There should be a window in there called Chat, where you can click the little triangle and open up that window and see what Jamie's adding and pasting into there for you guys.
Okay, so you guys have the big sector window. I included the regular compare counts I've been watching for the overall flow, the market capitalization. So there's a 4 Then you got the Stecker watch all dialed in. And then I went ahead and threw in the Turbo Up family simply because, let me check time here. We're getting close, so I'll make this quick. Even on a day like today, and keeping in mind the whole time when we're watching our windows that show us volume, keeping in mind that we were cycling down, but on pretty pathetic volume, and there were plenty of things going up, and they would go up, and then of course they would peel back. So if we kind of start going through all of the long plays that I just kind of tweeted out that were consolidations, you can still see they broke, went a little bit higher, maybe hugged that line all day. But even on a day like today, where we had this pretty significant downdraft, if you knew where to look, there was a nice handful of stocks going up. Why were they going up? Because there was some substantial volume in them, right? A lot of the times the institutions use that, all right? Because, hey, what better day to get a lot of stock on the books? Now, PayX is probably the worst example, where it popped up and immediately curled back over. And then we had ones like HTHT today, a beautiful little consolidation. And of course, this is the rabbit. This pattern here is the rabbit of the forest. They're all over the place. But when you compile this nice sideways price action with volume, well, then you have a rabbit that's not going to run in circles, right? It's going to run the way we like it to. So once again, even on a day where the downdraft was there, plenty of stocks going up with nice tight risk parameters for entries and things that actually moved pretty well today. HTHT was one. Square got a little bit of traction here, took a little breather back down to the line, and then put you in plenty of profit opportunity before coming all the way back down, right? So we could keep scrolling through those upsides. Team was another very nice one, which was just a very similar one to the one we just looked at here. Just a HTHT, just a very nice tight consolidation. But guess what? Boom, you get the alert at the exact opportunistic time that's correlating with the volume. So that's why I wanted to share the Turbo Breaks Up family, no resistance, because the added benefit, once we find the simple risk where risk is in place, we find the simple break with the volume. The added benefit of anything that comes out of that window is that it is at all-time highs, and it's not going to have any apparent resistance on a daily, which by no means guarantees, but hey, it's a nice attribute to pile onto a long trade. All right, I think that's about all I got today, Steve.
All right, well, let's bring Scott in.
Yeah. Scott, if you're there, we're ready for you, buddy.
All right, thank you for the webinar. Yeah, we have a couple things going on. Want to make sure everyone has a chance to watch all the talks from the summit that we had the other weekend. You can go to trade-ideas.com/Holly Summit and check that out. You can also download a handout with a lot of the links we're going to go through right now. Available for you on that to download. Just go to the handouts panel on your GoToWebinar interface, expand that, and click on the link to watch all of these talks from the summit, including the one by Greg Robbins that Steve was talking about earlier from Random Walk. Just go to trade-ideas.com/Holly Summit. That will forward to a page with all of the individual videos. We also have a podcast every week. Last week we had a really interesting one, kind of a recap of what went on at the conference with 4 of our guys. So go ahead and check that out. Just search for Trade Ideas Podcast in whatever podcast app you use and subscribe. Download the latest app. Download some from the archives. And stay tuned for the next one. We have a discount code, 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas. Just go ahead and use the code FinTech, all caps, just like you see it used. It is case sensitive. Then you can use that when you sign up for either standard or premium. You can also use that code to upgrade from standard to premium this month. So if you're already on standard and you want to get into premium, just go to your account management section on the website and use that code to do the upgrade from the change your subscription link. Otherwise, when you're subscribing, go to tradeideas.com/price and use that code on checkout. It saves you some money to get started. Thanks, everyone. Any questions, email us info@trade-ideas.com. It's the best place for help, or you can reach out to Steve or Jamie directly with the emails on the screen there. And we will be happy to answer all your questions. The recording of this should be up later on tonight or tomorrow morning. You'll get an email update from GoToWebinar with a reminder where the playlist is. Thank you, Jamie and Steve. See you later.
Hey, thanks, Scott.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, for popping in. Steve, we'll see you